to bring in attorney Harmeet Dhillon. And of course, Harmeet, she's been pushing back, challenging Silicon Valley abuse for years. I remember you started representing James Damon. That was back in, I think, against Google, 2017. Harmeet, what is the deal? I mean, people are cut off from Twitter, they're cut off from YouTube, abruptly terminated. No reason is ever given. No reason is ever has to be given. Is it about intimidation? Is it politics? Is it both? Why does this keep happening with more frequency?
Well, I think it's all of the above. And what's happening to people like Matt, it's actually been happening for many years now. And YouTube is kind of a law unto itself. And the problem here in the United States is that users have no sort of user bill of rights. And if you're talking about any other industry, Charles, you're talking about like banking regulations or housing regulations, employment regulations, healthcare, pharma regulations. Every industry is regulated except for big tech. Now, normally as a conservative, I'm not in favor of regulations, but I am in favor of companies being held to some standards. And this is a standardless wild, wild west where they're making record profits and users have absolutely no recourse to any enforceable norms whatsoever. And worse, these types of algorithms kind of are made in secret by liberal employees, because who else wants to live in the circumstances we live in here or can get a job at these companies? And so what the outcome is out of this black box is completely arbitrary rules. Matt has backers, has people who had his back, but a lot of people don't. So thousands and tens of thousands of Americans have been deplatformed with no excuse, and it's disturbing that they can get away with doing this and there's no legal recourse. But right now, that's the status in the courts.
So, I mean, and this is across the board, right? We know everyone from both sides of the political aisle think that these folks have way too much power. This morning, Paul Romer, he's a Nobel Prize-winning economist. He's the former chief economist at the World Bank. He's a liberal. He worked with Obama. He said he thinks Congress is going to have to pass some sort of legislation to reel in these big tech names. And, of course, he's talking the Apples and the Facebooks and all of them. Can it happen? Harmeet, is it too late? Are they so powerful that neither political party will find a way or the will to reel them in? I feel like it's getting worse.
Oh, it is getting worse. And one of the things that I've been talking about for many years on your show and many others is that these companies are global. Their shareholders are global, and they have bigger markets of consumers in other countries that are used to censorship. So, for example, to do any business in China, which Romer cited as an example or sort of a bellwether of censorship, they had to give Google has to give all of its information about searches, is required to ban certain search terms in those countries. We have the First Amendment here in this country, so I don't think that type of regulation is either appropriate or hopefully ever going to happen, or if it happens, survive court scrutiny in our country. But what could happen and should happen is that these companies should be subject to some enforceable rules. Communications Decency Act Section 230 has basically been interpreted by the courts, as a get-out-of-jail-free card for breaking contracts, for censoring people in any way. That needs to change. It's a 25-year-old rule. It's out of date. It was before these big social media companies. So Congress needs to take a pen to changing that rule, and while protecting big tech, doing fair things like taking down defamation or whatever, they need to not let them do whatever they want in censoring speech.
Harmeet, you have fought for the little guy and gal for so long that the apes keep reaching out to me, asking, will you also take up some sort of SEC litigation? I don't think that's your bailiwick, but if you ever want to talk about that, I want to bring you back on. No matter what, I want to bring you on from time to time because you give us the precise legal insight that we need. This is an issue that bothers every American, and I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. Thanks, it's been too long. We'll talk to you again real soon.